Hello, this is Jorge Lomas, and this is my final project for ETST 4000 Research Methods class, and this is my research design presentation. My research question was as following: how does current U.S. immigration policy affect the livelihood of current and future immigrants in the United States? Developing this question, well, it was for me an easy process going from research topic to research question, as I chose to use a inverted pyramid model where I had my broad general topic at the top, and as the pyramid goes down I narrowed down my focus. So I focused on the United States. I wanted to talk about politics, and in the realm of politics I really wanted to speak about immigration. Within the immigration section I really wanted to focus on the policy and the implementation of said policies. And my research question led me to, I guess, focus on this one aspect within the immigration policy, and it was how this affects the immigrants' livelihoods. I also want to take a second and talk about why is it that I chose this question and why I think it's important to answer it. It seems as though in everyday life now, there are constant new policies that are being implemented in what seems to be record time. A lot of these are done with such speed that a lot of people are caught off guard or are not even aware that these policies are actually implemented. They will hear something about it in the media, but they will not follow up to see whether it's factual or just fear mongering. So I felt compelled to focus on this vulnerable population, which is the immigrants, because a lot of the policy coming out of the administration is focused specifically on migrants, um, both here legally and illegally. And there is, I feel, a hole that needs to be filled, a hole with information, because the media is acting sort of as a messenger, but there is a lot of sort of plot holes that are appearing, and for a population that's as vulnerable as the immigrant population, there is a lot of obstacles to obtaining this information, and one of them is being the language barrier and sometimes educational level, as though it's hard to navigate. Um, it's hard to navigate everyday life, let alone now when it comes to policy and politics, and the media is their only trusted ally. So I think I would be doing a disservice if I don't focus on this subject and dig deep. So I want to talk about um, the information I found. Um, why do I feel as though what research can I implement that will further strengthen what is out there is the educational part. Um, After this, the only thing that's left is for immigrants to, look on the internet or look in the media. So there's a huge educational sort of aspect to it. Um, the second part is the safety and the livelihood of people. I want to implement my research to strengthen what I found based on safety and what to do. Um, the article that I found was by Kimberly Amadeo, and she focused on these six or seven key areas, and I want to do the same. I just want to further explore in depth, and that's how my research will strengthen what I found. So this article was posted by The Balance, and the name of the article is Donald Trump on Immigration, Pros and Cons of His Policies. The previous research that I found within this article was a bit of content analysis, archival research, and semiotic analysis. As this article explored six different policies that have been implemented or strengthened throughout his presidency, and how immigrants, both here legally and illegally, have been affected by it. Um, like I mentioned, it breaks down each policy for a quick summary of what it is and what does it mean to people, but it doesn't really focus on an individual level. It just speaks about immigrants in general, and I feel as though the research that needs to be done is to strengthen how this can affect people case by case. So, building on existing research, I chose these three different research methods: discourse analysis, ethnographic and participant observation, and semiotics analysis. So how will these methods that I chose fill in the gaps? So for discourse analysis, I want to focus as to um, why Trump has been allowed to freely implement these policies that are based on xenophobia. Also with discourse analysis, focusing on the America First slogan and sort of the platform of his presidency, and also exploring the definition of the image, the definition and the image of what an immigrant is in today's world. For the archival exploration, I feel very strongly to compare this to sort of historical things that have happened within the United States. And one that comes to mind, which I feel has very similar links and timeline, was the Japanese American wrongfully imprisonment in these internment camps. I also feel it's important to talk about previous anti-immigration policies in America and how these have either been re-implemented or they've been changed to fit in today's sort of immigrant platform. By using ethnographic and participant observation, I want to focus on how the immigrant has reacted here in Colorado, how this has affected their livelihood, how they go out to work, how they function, how their everyday lives have been affected, and also to see how they've navigated to find resources available to them, because there is some states that are much more friendlier to immigrants than others, and I feel like through participant observation, I can really focus on sort of a sender and receiver sort of model to see what is it that they're doing and how can I, in a position that I'm in, being a paralegal, offer a solution to those people that I interact with every day. And last but not least, semiotic analysis. I really want to talk about the close analysis of texts and sort of detailed analysis of meanings. For example, the travel ban and the refugee denial. What does this really mean? It's not really just policies, but what image and message they're sending to the people outside of the United States. I want to really also connect how what we're going through with the America First policy and the sort of nationalist pride going on, and how this was similar to the war against terror in 1930 and 35 with fascism and totalitarianism. The way that I'll be analyzing the data will be, again, the discourse analysis will allow me to talk about who are the speakers, what is it that what message are they trying to convey? Um, Also speak about what authority that person has, the ethos, and how are the discourses framing the subject being the immigrant, how are they being portrayed. Um, Also, sort of the political campaign, the platform that they have. What is the attitude towards the subject? What frames are being invoked? Who is the assumed audience? Um, Again, the America First is trying to get rid of immigrants, even if they're here legally or if they didn't done things correctly. It's sort of a us versus the outsiders mentality, and how this message again is being perceived to the people living here or future migrants who want to visit the country, and how this is discouraging them and painting them in a really bad fashion. The archive research, again, I want to explore published, you know, policies and laws that have been happening in our century. Um, for example, I want to talk about and make that connection really of driving the point home that this has happened before with Japanese Americans who were sent into internment camps. It's happening now with children and family in the borders being separated and sometimes being forced to give up their rights even as immigrants. Um, most importantly, I want to talk about the laws and the policies that have been around, and there's again been a resurgence of these sort of old policies. Specifically, I want to talk about the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act, which restricted public assistance such as Medicaid and CHIP back in 1996, and how the law here that has been implemented of becoming a public charge if an immigrant seeks any public benefits such as food stamps, Medicaid, CHIP, or just any government assistance program, they will be deemed a public charge and therefore deported. The ethnographic and persistent observation, um, how are people navigating here in Colorado? How are they been forced to make changes to their everyday lives? Um, Me being in a sort of insider and outsider perspective because I work with immigrants and I see them on an everyday basis and how they have changed from cooperating to not cooperating to bringing documents so that we can help them with the naturalization process and things like that. The fear that this has created. Um, Also, it really has impacted the resources available for them. But at the same time, this is kind of playing into the participant observation because there is again a sender and receiver aspect to this whole um, political system. For example, there's a social system, again of complex coordinated networks of mutually adopted patterns and ideas which control or influence the activities of its members, and this is being again the fear mongering and the anti-immigrant speech and how again this is affecting them. Last but not least, I want to talk about the semiotic analysis of the message that these policies have. Every word in the policy is very intentional, and exploring that can also work towards the immigrant's advantage, as sometimes there are loopholes that are left open, especially if you're within the field of politics or law. And really, at the same time, on the other side of the court, what the travel ban and the refugee denial means. Um, it's trying to be portrayed as a protection of America First policy and nationalism, but it really is just a message of hate and xenophobia and kind of stay out of the country, don't come here. Especially the travel ban that was only focused to only a handful of countries where terrorism is a big issue, and um, again, this was made on a basis of xenophobia. again, I wanted to mention the similarities to the War on Terror in 1939, 1945, and how in 2018 it has kind of resurfaced again as an as America First, um, sort of a proud moment. Um, so that was it. Thank you so much.